That's right. I am back, and our guest of the evening is Mr. Mickey Grant. Mickey, how you doing?
Fine, and Darius, how are you?
I'm doing great. Got the whole gang here, Shane and Demetrius. They're just discussing possible names for the show, but we'll get to the topic on hand and the name of your show. You produced a documentary. I believe it came out, 2008?
Right, at the end of 2008. It took 5 years to make.
5 years in the making. It's a documentary.
It's a real documentary.
Yes, it definitely is, and it's titled Gentleman's Choice, Chris Adams' story. Is that correct?
Right, yeah. In the general release, it's just called Gentleman's Choice, but for the wrestling audience, I added the Chris Adams story, so they have an idea who it is. But it's not a wrestling documentary. There's a lot of wrestling films which kind of look like documentaries, but I left World Class Championship Wrestling over 25 years ago to start a career. I'd gotten very frustrated with where we were heading with our show, and I did a film called China Run that was on HBO, and since then all I've been doing is documentaries, frequently, most of the time overseas. And after Chris died, I kept thinking about doing one about his life, and there was some footage I shot one day in the park with him. It was for another show, and just for the hell of it, I wanted to get him talking just to me about what life he felt would be like since he had just gotten out of prison for headbutting the American Airlines pilot, and that was the kernel of what the documentary was built around. And I knew all the people that were in his life, and I hadn't met his parents yet. I made 2 trips to England. I hadn't met Jeannie at that time, but I knew everybody else, and especially the people near the end of his life. And I actually started shooting with the guy that shot Chris, and I kind of worked backwards. But so many of the people were my closest friends, like Kevin Von Erich. I would never do another film like this. It was. There's nothing that could happen, I think, that deals with wrestling that would click like this did. And no one really knew the entire story, and it was hard. It's frequently the interviews. I would shoot 100 hours with somebody. The woman, for instance, who was angry at Chris, he had fired her. She's like the perfect antagonist for a movie. She was very vindictive. She wanted to hurt Chris, destroy him. And years passed while I was shooting it, and I learned some information about at one point Chris was going to get a hitman to kill her. I drove back out to her house. I didn't tell her that up front, and you hear in the film, I say, I've got something to lay on you. Chris was hiring a hitman to kill you, and she's just stunned. And then as time progressed, maybe a year later, a lot had happened in her life, and she was feeling she wanted to make amends for what she'd done to Chris. She didn't feel it was right. So, it's a special story. I don't think I'll ever be able to tell a story like this one again. It was just from, having access to these people, them knowing that I had created World Class Championship Wrestling. They were, generally happy to, be in the film, talk to me. I think some of them weren't real happy. They didn't come out the way they probably were hoping they would come out. There's a lot of name-calling in the film, people casually making negative comments about each other, and but that was part of the atmosphere. That was much. It was also a reflection of what Chris's world had become. He had gone from, like in the movie with Mickey Rourke, he had gone from, what was that fighter called? I'm trying to remember his wrestling name. I just saw
Randy the Ram.
The Ram, yeah. He'd gone from the Ram in front of enormous audiences. Like we started with the audience at the Cotton Bowl, which was close to 40,000, and he'd gone to small audiences, 50 to 100 people. And sadly, this is the case that hits a lot of people with their retirement. They're, going to sign autographs at autograph signing, conventions and things like that. Chris wasn't, he wasn't in that bad a shape yet. He was still fighting, but it was going downhill pretty fast. The GHB was taking a really big toll on him. A lot of people don't understand GHB. If you do injectable steroids, the only way you can sleep at night is G. And it's a club drug. It's also known as the date rape drug, but it's unbelievably addictive. You take it, you get a great night's sleep. Before you know it, you want that same feeling when you wake up in the morning, and so you're taking it then, and you go into a blackout when it's out of your body, which is after 4 hours. And it just gets worse and worse until you're doing 8-9 doses a day, and drinking. And Chris was drinking on top of it, which is about a 50-50 chance of going into a coma when you're doing that. But he felt all of that all together, enhanced sex, enhanced life, and it also puts weight on you real fast. His ex-wife had been a stripper, and she was always about 112. And she didn't work out like Chris, and she was, at the time she died, she ended up with a GHB dealer and having a baby with him, Chris's G dealer, and she weighed about 250. You gain weight when you take G. That's one of the quickest ways to identify a G addict, is a rapid weight gain. And Chris was resorting to wearing his judo gi. He had been a judo champ when he was younger, but at this point he was wearing his gi because he to help cover up his growing belly.
Man, we're talking with Mickey Grant, who made a documentary that you can find on iSoda.com. Is that the
easiest way to tell people how to go to it is go to gentleman'schoice.tv. Don't go to .com. That's a porno site. You might want to go there, but go to .tv. Gentleman's Choice. There's no apostrophe, in naming a website address. Gentleman'schoice.tv, and that would take you right to the iSoda site, right to the film on the iSoda site. And iSoda is a wonderful operation. They're one of the first organizations to put independent film on its video on demand, and people have been waiting for it for a long time. A lot of it had to do with getting a video codec that would play fast enough that you could watch it on DSL, and that's H.264. And so now, as you well know, you see lots of wrestling on the internet. Entire live shows are run live, and probably within about 2 years, the cable television will be replaced, I think, with people getting their video off the internet.
Most definitely. Now, well, let me ask you, did you have anybody who was reluctant to come in? Because this is not a happy story. It's not a happy tale. With Chris, being shot by a friend, and the drugs and the anger. Was there anybody who was reluctant to get on camera and talk to you about Chris?
No one was really reluctant. Sometimes it would take a while. There had to be a period of time. There was Akbar. Akbar didn't want to be in the film, but he's that way about everything, I think. And he wasn't a critical person in Chris's life. Reluctant. His brother, Neil. I called his brother up, and he lives south of London. Is it south? Yeah, I guess so. And I called him up, told him I was doing a film in Bulgaria, and I had time between it and another one I was doing in Ukraine. So I had a week off, so I was going to go to London and try to shoot everybody. And I got Neil. Neil was in many ways uncomfortable to talk about it. He really has anger towards Bure, who shot Chris. And then I was on the phone nearly every day to Jeannie, and Chris's first wife, who later married Steve Austin. I believe Steve was opposed to her being